The galaxy trembled. Not from war, nor from any known weapon, but from a sound. A faint, rhythmic pulse echoing through the cold dark between the stars. It began as a whisper, buried in static, just another piece of forgotten noise drifting through the void. But then it repeated. 3 beats, a pause, then 2. A sequence known only to one species, humanity. The signal came from the edge of known space, a region long marked as dead and forbidden. The coordinates pointed to the remains of an old Terran outpost, a place scorched into glass during the Orion Purge Wars, centuries ago. No one had gone there in generations. No one dared. When the first listening stations picked up the pattern, the analysts laughed. It had to be an error, an echo from an ancient probe, perhaps, or a distorted transmission from a pirate relay. After all, humanity was gone, their fleets destroyed, their colonies burned, their homeworld turned to dust. The galaxy had seen to that. But then the signal grew stronger, clearer, and this time it carried a message. This is Terran Command. Unit Phoenix. Requesting response. Humanity endures. The words froze the galaxy. Every major empire received it within hours. The Van Dominion called an emergency council. The Zereth Technarchs locked down their border sectors. Even the neutral merchant guilds, who cared for nothing but trade, began recalling their fleets from the outer systems. It was impossible, and yet there it was. A human distress call, repeating on an encrypted Terran frequency not used in over 300 years. Whispers spread like wildfire. Could they have survived? No, it's a trick. Some rebel faction using ancient codes. Or maybe the legends were true, because even after all this time, the stories never really died. Children on alien worlds still whispered tales of the Terran demons, soldiers in metal armor who fought entire armadas and didn't surrender even when their planets burned. Smugglers spoke of lost human fleets hidden in dark space, waiting for the right moment to return. And the oldest veterans remembered the final human message before they vanished. We may fall, but we will return. But legends were not supposed to answer back. Now, as the ancient beacon pulsed across the void, the galaxy's most powerful nations gathered in silence, not to celebrate, but to prepare. The Van High Council was the first to respond. In a hall of crystal and light, their leader, Chancellor Rakesh, studied the hologram of the red and white waveform. His 4 eyes narrowed. "Send a scout fleet," he ordered. "If the humans are back, we will find them before they find us." Across the chamber, one of his generals and a veteran of the old wars spoke cautiously. "Chancellor, if the humans truly have returned, then a scouting fleet will not be enough." Rakesh turned to him slowly. "You think I fear ghosts?" The general said nothing. But deep down, even he remembered what humanity had done. The planets they destroyed rather than surrender. The ships that fought until the last man. The fleets that disappeared into the darkness and never came back. Ghosts or not, the name human still carried weight, the kind that haunted nightmares. Within days, the signal drew explorers, mercenaries, and bounty hunters to the Epsilon expanse, the dark frontier where the transmission originated. And then they saw it, a ship or something like one, drifting silently near a dead star. It had no lights, no markings, no active transponders. Its surface was black as obsidian, and on its hull, half buried under centuries of dust and cosmic frost, one symbol glowed faintly red, a broken Earth. The scavenger crew of the Drevos approached carefully, broadcasting hails in every known language. No response. Old Terran design, their pilot muttered. Pre-war era, maybe older. Shouldn't even exist. As their scanners probed deeper, something stirred inside the vessel. Power surged. Systems that hadn't been touched in 3 centuries flickered awake. The ship's engines thrummed once, then went silent. A moment later, a voice spoke, soft, mechanical, and human. "Unit Phoenix. Status dormant. Awaiting command authorization." The scavengers froze, and before they could retreat, their sensors detected movement. Dozens of other ships emerged from the shadows, identical in shape and silence. They had no lights, no heat signatures, no communication. They simply appeared, surrounding the Drevos like sharks circling prey. Then, as one, they turned toward the core worlds. Their engines flared a deep blood-red hue, and they were gone. News of the encounter spread in hours. The Council of Empires convened in panic. Fleet movements multiplied across the sectors. Every admiral wanted answers, but the truth was far worse than anyone imagined. From the ruins of old Terran colonies, more signals began to broadcast, hundreds of them, all synchronized. Each one bearing the same encrypted message. Each one repeating the same ancient motto of the lost human fleets. We endure, we rise, we return. At the same time, long-dead satellite networks flickered to life around forgotten planets. Encrypted channels opened in abandoned human languages. Even the AI archives, sealed since the wars, began transmitting coordinates to unknown destinations. Someone, or something, was waking up the past. By the third week, panic had spread across the galactic rim. Merchant routes closed. Military borders tightened. The Council released a public statement, claiming the signals were harmless background echoes, but everyone knew the truth. The stars were whispering again, and their voices were human. Then came the first sighting. A Van patrol ship near the Tarsis Nebula picked up an unidentified contact, large, silent, and unresponsive. When they approached, their sensors were jammed by a strange pulse. Before they could retreat, the object moved. It wasn't a meteor. It was a warship, black as night. No insignia, no life signs, only that same red symbol glowing faintly on its hull, the broken Earth. The patrol captain tried to hail it. No reply. Moments later, every system on his ship went dark. Power, life support, engines, and all dead. In the final seconds of his last log, his voice trembled. It's them, the humans. They're back. Across the galaxy, leaders and common folk alike stared into the dark between the stars, hearts pounding with the same mix of fear and awe. The legends had returned. The ghosts of humanity were no longer stories, and somewhere in the void a human fleet stirred, ancient engines roaring back to life. Their message was simple, their vengeance inevitable, because if the legends were true, then humanity was back, and they were not here for peace. Long before the signal returned, before the galaxy trembled once again, there was the fall. Humanity had not always been a ghost. Once they were a rising power, bold, creative, unstoppable. Their fleets spread across the stars. Their colonies flourished on hundreds of worlds. They were the builders of great cities that touched the clouds, the dreamers who turned barren rocks into green gardens. To many, they were heroes. To others, they were a threat. The United Terran Federations believed in freedom, for every human and for every species willing to live as equals. But freedom is a dangerous word in a galaxy ruled by empires. The alien powers saw humanity's rapid growth as a disease, one that had to be cured before it consumed the stars, and so the seeds of war were planted. It began quietly, with small betrayals. Trade agreements broken, ships lost in neutral space, colonies attacked by pirates that were never identified. The Terran Federations protested, sent envoys, demanded justice. But the Galactic Council, the great union of alien races, turned its many eyes away. Then came the Orion Purge Wars. Spark lit by fear. A human research station in the Orion cluster was destroyed by an alien cruiser. In retaliation, humanity struck back. Within a month, open war consumed half the galaxy. The Council called humanity reckless, savage, uncontrollable. But the truth was simpler. The other races were afraid. Humans fought differently. They adapted faster. They refused to surrender, even when outnumbered. When human ships were destroyed, their crews fought on foot. When planets fell, the survivors turned them into fortresses. When their leaders died, new ones rose without hesitation. To stop them, the Council united all its armies into a single force, the Coalition of Peace, and unleashed total war. The skies burned, worlds once green turned to ash. Oceans boiled. Cities vanished under plasma storms. Entire star systems were silenced, wiped from maps forever. But even in their dying moments, humanity fought back with fury unmatched. On Caladan Prime, when the last Terran fleet was cornered, Admiral Juno Vega refused to retreat. Her fleet of 80 ships stood against over 1,000 enemy vessels. She broadcast one final message before the battle began. If we fall today, let the stars remember, humanity did not kneel. When the smoke cleared, there were no survivors, human or alien. The battle left a glowing scar across the Caladan system that still burns red centuries later. They called it the Line of Fire, the place where humanity's courage became legend. The war dragged on for decades. Each victory cost the Council more than it gained. For every human world destroyed, 2 more colonies rose in secret. For every fleet lost, another appeared from the darkness, rebuilt, reborn. Humanity refused to die quietly. But in the end, the galaxy was too vast, and even legends have limits. The turning point came at Earth, the cradle of humankind. The Council's combined armada descended upon it like a storm. Billions watched as alien warships filled the skies, blotting out the sun. The humans called it the Siege of Terror. For months they held the line. For months they fought without sleep, without hope, without fear. And then Earth fell. No one knows who gave the final order. Some say it was the Terran president herself. Others say the planetary defense AI made the decision when all was lost. But when the alien forces broke through the final defenses, the planet's surface ignited. Every reactor, every weapon, every orbital station detonated at once. The blast erased continents. The oceans turned to steam. Billions of lives ended in a single light that outshone the sun, and when it faded, Earth was gone. The Council declared victory. They called it the cleansing. They erased humanity's name from star charts and history books. To speak of them was forbidden in many worlds. To most, the humans became nothing more than a myth, a story to scare young ones into obedience. "Be careful," parents whispered. "Behave or the humans will come back for you." But myths have power, and not everyone believed the story ended there. Among the ruins far from the core worlds, there were whispers of hidden fleets, human ships that vanished before Earth's fall, soldiers who refused to surrender, scientists who sealed their technology in secret vaults, colonies that cut communication and disappeared into dark space. The Council dismissed them as rumors, but deep down, some of their oldest historians knew the truth. Humanity had always planned for defeat, Project Phoenix. A name erased from records but never forgotten. It was said to be the final contingency, a last promise from the Terran High Command. When the end came, select fleets were ordered to vanish into the void, to sleep until the stars were ready for their return. No one ever found them. Not until now, centuries passed. Empires rose and fell. The galaxy changed, but the fear remained. Even without proof, the name human lingered in the corners of every alien mind. Then, after 300 years of silence, the signal came. Her simple pattern of light and sound, 3 beats, a pause, then 2. It was more than a message. It was a memory waking up. And as the ancient distress call spread through the void, the galaxy felt something it hadn't felt in centuries. Dread, because the humans had promised they would return. And now the promise was being kept. Somewhere in the uncharted darkness deep beyond the galactic rim, a ship stirred. Engines old and silent began to hum again. Lights flickered in long-abandoned corridors. Cryochambers glowed faintly as dust fell away from glass. Inside, soldiers slept, faces peaceful, uniforms faded. Weapons still at their sides, a voice, calm, metallic, and human, whispered through the silence. Project Phoenix, awakening sequence initiated. Humanity endures. And as the ship turned toward the light of distant stars, its insignia glowed red. Their broken earth shining like a wound, the legends were not dead. They had been waiting. The storm began quietly, on a forgotten world called Virel 9, a cold, barren planet on the edge of the outer rim. It had no air worth breathing, no life worth naming. Just dust, rock, and the endless scream of frozen winds. For centuries, Virel 9 was nothing but a mining outpost owned by the Zereth Technarchs, an empire of machines and logic. The miners who worked there were slaves to routine, drilling, harvesting, and dying beneath a gray sky, until one day, one of them struck something that was not stone. It happened during a deep excavation. Their drills hit metal, smooth, cold, unbreakable. The crew thought it was an old alien wreck, maybe from one of the lost wars. But when they cleared the dust, they saw the symbol burned into the surface, a red, broken earth. No one spoke for a long time. The symbol was known even among the younger generations, forbidden, feared. A mark from old human wars. The foreman sent word to the Technarch overseers. Within hours, the site was locked down. Drones surrounded the area, and every miner was forced away. The dig continued under full military control. They uncovered a massive underground hangar, sealed by blast doors the size of mountains. The metal was unlike any known alloy, still gleaming after centuries buried under ice. When the Technarch engineers tried to cut through, their lasers melted against it. Then one of them found a console, half buried, still glowing faintly blue. Lines of code shimmered across the screen in an ancient language. Terran Standard. The lead engineer translated what he could. The message was short. Project Phoenix. Stand by for reactivation. The Technarchs didn't understand what they had found. They believed it to be a lost weapons vault, maybe filled with primitive human relics. So they did what all empires do. They forced it open. The moment the console's power core was reconnected, the ground trembled. Machines buried for centuries began to awaken. Air vents hissed. Lights flickered on across the hangar walls, revealing hundreds of enormous shapes, starships black and sleek, arranged in perfect lines. They were not ruins. They were sleeping. Alarms blared as energy readings spiked beyond measurable limits. The Technarch drones tried to shut down the systems, but the human code resisted. It rewrote itself, blocking every command. A synthetic voice echoed through the chamber, calm but cold. Authorization required. Identity confirmed. Human command sequence. Awakening protocol engaged. The Technarch commander panicked. "Cut the power," he ordered. But it was too late. The hangar doors began to open. Dust and darkness poured out into the thin air. One by one, the ships rose from their cradles, their engines glowing faint red. A massive flagship, larger than any known vessel, lifted from the center of the vault. Its nameplate, half covered in dust, read TNS Retribution. Then the voice spoke again. Signal transmission complete. Humanity endures. And across the galaxy, the old Terran distress beacon came to life once more. Every listening post, every deep space sensor, every communication array lit up at once. The same signal, 3 beats, a pause, then 2, repeated endlessly through the void. The message wasn't long. But to those who understood, it was enough to make entire governments shiver. "This is Terran Command. Unit Phoenix reporting. Humanity endures." Within hours, the Galactic Council was in chaos. The Van Dominion declared a state of emergency. The Zereth Technarchs sealed their borders and erased all data related to Virel 9. The Kethari hives mobilized fleets near their frontier. Every species remembered the stories, the old wars, the unyielding enemy, the humans who refused to die. Now their ghosts were speaking again. Meanwhile, on Virel 9, the Technarchs tried to destroy the hangar. They sent in orbital weapons, plasma strikes, kinetic bombs, everything they had. The entire valley vanished in fire and smoke. When the dust cleared, the hangar was gone. But so were the ships. Thousands of human warships had vanished without trace. No wreckage, no radiation. Nothing left but the faint mark of burn trails heading toward deep space. The Technarch commander who led the strike recorded one final report before going silent. His message was short, his voice trembling with disbelief. They were not relics. They were waiting. Days passed. Then reports began flooding in from across the outer rim. Cargo ships disappearing. Patrol fleets wiped out in seconds. Unidentified vessels seen moving through the void. Black ships silent and fast, bearing no known ID codes. One merchant convoy claimed to have seen them up close. The surviving crew described massive vessels that appeared from the darkness without warning, engines glowing faint red, like burning embers. "They didn't attack at first," the captain said in his recorded statement. "They just watched us, like hunters studying prey." And then they were gone, straight into the dark. By the 4th week, the panic spread to the inner worlds. The Council ordered its fleets to prepare for a possible invasion. Though no one dared to say the name aloud, but everyone knew, on the 29th day, the first real contact was made. A Van reconnaissance fleet found one of the human ships near the edge of the Erebus Nebula. They surrounded it with 6 destroyers, demanding identification. The ship did not respond. Its hull bore no damage, no sign of wear, just that broken Earth symbol glowing faintly in the dark. When the Van flagship approached, their sensors malfunctioned. Communications broke down. Then their main reactor failed, as if something inside the ship had been drained away. In the final moments of their last transmission, the Van captain's voice was filled with fear. "It's not just a ship. It's alive." Then the signal cut out. The entire fleet vanished from sensors. Only static remained. Across the galaxy, the debate raged. Was it a hoax? A new empire pretending to be human, or was it truly them, the fallen species that once defied the universe? But the truth was already spreading faster than light. More human ships were being sighted. More ancient codes were waking. And the signal, as that old unending pulse, still echoed across every frequency. 3 beats. A pause, then 2, again and again like a heartbeat from the past. Far beyond any star chart, in a dark region of space untouched for centuries, the TNS Retribution drifted silently. The galaxy was burning, not from war, not yet, but from fear. For the first time in centuries, every major power gathered under one roof. The Council of Empires met inside the Celestial Spire, a massive space station that hung above the shining world of Elindra Prime, a place built for peace, now drowning in panic. Hollow displays filled the chamber with light, each showing the same terrifying image: black ships rising from dead worlds, human symbols glowing red, entire fleets vanishing without a trace. The council floor buzzed with voices, hundreds of alien delegates shouting over each other. They destroyed our patrols in the nebula. They are not human. It's impossible. We must strike first before they reach the core systems. At the center of the chaos stood Chancellor Arkesh of the Varn Dominion. Tall, armored, and furious, he slammed his clawed hand against the table. The sound echoed through the chamber. "Enough!" he roared. "Panic helps no one. These are ghosts, nothing more. Some warlord wearing the mask of humanity to frighten us." But the hologram said otherwise. Footage from the last surviving Technarch drone showed a fleet emerging from hyperspace. Human ships arranged in perfect formation. The image flickered, distorted by static, but the insignia was clear. The broken Earth glowing red, and the last transmission from the Varn patrol still haunted every screen. "It's alive," the captain had whispered before the signal died. The Council's military analysts projected the growing threat. 17 confirmed human fleets, each composed of hundreds of ships. Estimated total strength, enough to challenge the combined navy of 3 empires. "They strike fast and disappear," said the Zereth intelligence chief, his mechanical voice trembling. "They jam our sensors. They disable ships without firing a shot. And when we send reinforcements, the entire fleet is gone." "Gone where?" asked Rakesh. The answer came from an old cracked voice, Elder Sithra of the Ketheri Hives, whose kind had fought humanity during the Purge Wars, leaned forward. Her black eyes shimmered with memory. "Into the dark," she said. "That is where they live. Between the stars in the shadows we dare not map. The humans called it dark space. We called it the graveyard." The chamber fell silent. The council voted, and for the first time in 500 years, a united galactic defense pact was declared. Every fleet, every weapon, every spy network was placed under one command. The council promised the people safety. They promised control. But behind closed doors the truth was clear. They were afraid. 3 days later, the first battle began. It happened near the Lissar frontier, where a massive alien armada, over 500 ships, was deployed to intercept what they believed was a small human scouting force. Admiral Drixon of the Varn Dominion stood aboard his flagship Vigilant Dawn, confident in victory. His fleets filled the sky, cruisers, carriers, dreadnoughts, all armed with the latest plasma weaponry. The humans, by comparison, had only 12 ships. Small outdated designs, or so they appeared. Drixon smiled. "End this myth," he ordered. "Let their ghosts rest." But when his fleet moved to attack, everything changed. The human ships did not scatter or retreat. They formed a silent line, hand calm, still waiting. Then without a sound they vanished. Every sensor blinked. Every scanner went dark. For 3 long seconds the battlefield was empty. Then the humans reappeared as behind the Varn fleet. Before the admiral could react, his ships began to die. Not by weapons. By silence. Their reactors failed. Their navigation vanished. Their AI system screamed in binary panic as some code, infected them. The humans weren't fighting with firepower. They were fighting with control. Human ships moved through the chaos with precision, striking once and fading into the void. Each shot found its target. Each explosion was clean, deliberate. Within 10 minutes, 500 alien ships were destroyed. Not one human vessel was lost. The last transmission from Admiral Drixon's flagship was faint, static-filled. "They see everything." They knew we were coming. Gods help us, they were waiting. Then silence, the footage spread faster than light. Entire worlds watched the battle in disbelief. News channels replayed the moment the humans vanished from radar, over and over again as if searching for an answer. No one found one. Across the galaxy, panic grew. Populations fled border worlds. Armies were recalled from exploration fronts. Even pirate clans and mercenary groups began to swear loyalty to the Council, desperate for protection. The galaxy had not seen unity like this in centuries, but it was not unity born of hope. It was unity born of terror. Meanwhile, in the dark between stars, the human fleet regrouped. On the bridge of the TNS Retribution, Commander Alice Rain stood before the holographic display of the destroyed alien armada. Her officers, men and women who had slept for 300 years, watched in silence. One of them spoke softly. "They haven't changed." Still the same arrogance, still the same fear, Alice nodded. Her eyes were sharp, but her voice calm. "They believe we are vengeance," she said. "But vengeance is too small a word for what we're about to do." She turned toward the stars ahead, the same stars where humanity's worlds once burned. "And we fight not for rage," she said, her voice steady. "We fight for memory, for every voice they silenced, for every home they erased. The galaxy forgot us. Now it will remember." The crew stood at attention. 1,000 voices answered as one. Humanity endures. Back on Alindra Prime, the Council tried to rebuild control. They censored the footage, declared the rumors false, blamed rogue AIs or unknown pirates. But deep down, every leader, every citizen, every soldier knew the truth. Something ancient had awakened. Something that remembered every wound, every betrayal, every broken promise. And as more human fleets emerged from dark space in 2050, 100, the stars themselves seemed to grow colder, because the legends had stopped being stories. They were ships now. They were soldiers. They were coming, the galaxy prepared for war. But no one understood the truth yet. The humans were not coming to conquer. They were coming to correct what was broken. And as the Council marshaled its armies, a new message echoed across every frequency in the galaxy. Calm, cold, human. You called us monsters. You burned our worlds. You erased our name. Now we are your reckoning, and then silence, followed by the sound that every listening post feared most. 3 beats. A pause, 2 more. The sound of humanity. The galaxy had seen wars before. It had seen empires rise and fall, fleets clash and planets burn. But it had never seen this. The humans did not return with banners or speeches. They did not demand surrender. They did not even announce war. They simply appeared. It began at the rim worlds, quiet trading outposts and mining colonies that dotted the edges of the mapped galaxy. One night, the stars themselves seemed to flicker. Ships vanished from orbit without a trace. Communications went silent. When rescue fleets arrived days later, they found entire settlements abandoned. Machines still running, lights still burning, food still warm on tables. But every living being, gone. Only one thing remained. Carved into metal walls, etched into ship hulls, written in blood and rust, humanity endures. At first, the Council thought it was a terror campaign, a psychological war. But soon the attacks grew larger, more precise. Every week another fleet vanished. Every day another defense line was cut apart. The humans struck like shadows. Their ships appeared from dark space folds, impossible jumps that broke every law of physics the aliens understood. They attacked from behind, below, inside, wherever their enemies least expected them. The Council's admirals called it impossible. But impossibility didn't stop the humans. It never had. On the bridge of the TNS Retribution, Commander Alice Rain watched the holographic map of the galaxy burn red. Each mark a fallen enemy fleet. Around her the bridge buzzed with quiet efficiency. No one cheered. No one smiled. They were not fighting for glory. They were fighting to erase history's lie. "Report," Alice said calmly. "Sector 8 cleared," replied her officer. "The Dominion shipyards are destroyed. Civilian loss is minimal." Alice nodded. "Next target?" "Council Supply World, Argath Prime." Alice looked out into the stars. "Proceed." The officer hesitated. "Commander, their world is unarmed. Just factories, civilians. Then perhaps they should remember what they built those factories for." She interrupted quietly. "Every weapon they made helped burn our worlds. Every hand that labored there fed the fire. We end it all, root to bone. Her voice did not tremble. It did not hate. It simply remembered. The fleet jumped. In seconds, human warships tore through the folds of dark space and emerged above Argath Prime. The planet's sky filled with shadow. Thousands of ships. Silent black, glowing faint red. The alien governor tried to open communications. Identify yourselves. This world is protected by the signal cut off. Every planetary defense cannon powered down. Every satellite went dark. Human AI systems had taken control of the entire planet's grid in less than a minute. Then, the bombardment began. But it wasn't destruction, not at first. The humans targeted only military outposts, weapon depots and research facilities. Precision strikes, surgical and clean. When it ended, the human ships did not leave. They landed, and from them came the soldiers. The galaxy had forgotten what human soldiers looked like. They were smaller than most alien races, but their presence filled the air like thunder. They wore black armor that shimmered like obsidian, helmets glowing with crimson visors. A young alien from the Arakai colonies broadcast a message across every open frequency. The legends were true. Humanity has returned, and they fight not for vengeance, but for freedom. That message spread faster than any weapon. In a single week, uprisings erupted across dozens of council worlds. The mighty empires that once ruled the stars began to crumble, not under fire but under the weight of their own fear. Still, the council refused to yield. Their leaders gathered what remained of their fleets for one final stand, at the heart of the galaxy, above Elindra Prime. They called it Operation Eternal Dawn, a desperate attempt to end the human advance. Hundreds of thousands of ships assembled, the largest armada ever seen. But as they prepared for war, their sensors detected a massive disturbance in deep space. Something was coming, a fleet larger than anything recorded in history. And at its head, the TNS Retribution. Commander Rain's voice echoed through every comm channel in the system, calm and cold. Once we were just legends. Now we are your truth. The stars burned bright as the two greatest forces in galactic history moved toward each other. The final reckoning had begun. The war had changed everything. Worlds that had stood for millennia now burned in orbit. Empires that once ruled the stars hid behind their dying suns. And through it all, one truth echoed across the void. Humanity had returned. But as the battles raged, a strange silence fell. No new attacks, no new strikes. For the first time since their reappearance, the human fleet stopped moving. No one understood why. The Council believed they were regrouping, planning their next wave. But they were wrong. The humans were preparing to speak. On the bridge of the TNS Retribution, Commander Alice Rain stood before a vast holographic display, a galaxy map marked by scars of fire and red lines of victory. Behind her, technicians moved in silence, preparing the transmission arrays. "Are we ready?" she asked. A communications officer turned. "Signal channels open across all known networks, Commander. Every major system will receive the broadcast within 30 seconds. Alice nodded. "Then let them listen." Across the galaxy, on palace worlds and mining stations, on warships and refugee outposts, the screens flickered. Every signal, every frequency, every device capable of receiving transmission went dark for an instant. Then the image appeared. A woman stood in a dimly lit command deck. Her armor was black and scarred, her face pale, framed by the red glow of tactical lights. Behind her, a single emblem pulsed, a broken earth, cracked but shining. Her voice was calm, measured, unyielding. "To the rulers of this galaxy," she began, "and to those who have suffered under them. I am Commander Alice Rain of the Terran Vanguard. We are humanity reborn. 300 years ago you called us monsters. You named us a plague. You united against us, and you burned our home. You told your children we were gone, that the fire had erased us from history. But fire does not destroy humanity. It forges us." Her eyes flicked to the side, data streams and hollow images flashing before her. Earth burning, human fleets dying, alien soldiers cheering their victory. "We have watched your empires grow fat on the ashes of the innocent. We have seen you enslave entire species, strip worlds bare, and call it order. You built your peace upon the bones of those too weak to fight back. We remember. In every corner of the galaxy, millions watched in silence. Alien leaders froze in horror as her words filled their halls. Common citizens, workers, slaves, refugees, leaned closer, their hearts pounding, because there was no rage in her voice. Only conviction. We did not return for conquest. We did not come to rule your stars or rebuild our lost empire. We came for balance. To those who stood against us, the ones who lit the fires of the purge, we offer only truth. Your time is over. But to those who were silenced, oppressed, broken, we offer a choice. Rise with us, or remain in chains. Her image grew larger, her eyes seeming to pierce through every screen. We will not demand loyalty. We will not demand worship. We ask only that you remember who we are and what we were forced to become. Humanity endures. Humanity returns. And this time, humanity leads. When the transmission ended, the galaxy held its breath. On Alindra Prime, the Council erupted in chaos. Dozens of species shouted across the chamber, demanding action, denouncing the humans as liars, as demons returned from the void. But for every voice of fear, there was another voice, and quiet, trembling, but filled with hope. A representative from the Tarnak Enclave. Once slaves of the Council stood and said, "She spoke of choice, something the Council never gave us." Others began to whisper. Could it be true? Could the humans, the monsters of legend, are to really fight for freedom? The Council could feel their control slipping away. They knew that words could destroy faster than any fleet. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the galaxy, the human message sparked something deeper. Rebel cells that had been hiding for centuries began to move. Worlds that had once bowed to the Council raised new flags, red and black, marked with the broken earth. Entire fleets of defectors joined the humans, sending a single encrypted phrase, "We choose to rise." Commander Rain watched as reports flooded in, dozens of species uniting under the Terran banner, revolts erupting in Council strongholds, old enemies fighting side by side for the first time in history. Phase 2 begins, she said softly. But not everyone believed the message was pure. In the deep halls of the Council Intelligence Corps, a group of alien strategists studied the human broadcast frame by frame. One of them, an old Zereth AI, detected something hidden in the signal. Layers of encrypted code buried beneath the message. "What is it?" asked the Van General. The AI's voice trembled for the first time in its existence. "It's instructions, coordinates, activation keys." "For what?" The AI hesitated, its lights flickering. For something ancient, something human. And then, as they tried to trace it, the system burned out, fried from within by a self-destructing digital virus. The Council never discovered what the hidden code awakened. But far away, in the silent dark beyond mapped space, massive structures began to stir. Monolithic stations buried under asteroid fields, dormant for centuries, now glowed with red light. Engines the size of cities powered up. Beacons flared. The final phase of Project Phoenix had begun. Alice Rain stood before her crew once more, watching as the stars outside the viewport shifted and glimmered. "Commander," said her officer quietly, "the message is spreading. Billions have seen it. Entire sectors are rising. And the Council?" Alice asked. "They've declared us a galactic threat. They're assembling their final armada at Alindra Prime." Alice smiled faintly. "Good. Let them come." She turned to her fleet, hundreds of ships aligned in perfect formation, dark and silent, waiting for her word. 300 years ago, they thought they could erase us. They turned us into myths. Now we'll show them what legends are made of. As the Retribution's engines roared to life, the stars bent around her fleet, and they vanished into the folds of dark space, heading toward Alindra Prime. Behind them, billions rose in rebellion. Ahead of them, the Council prepared its final stand, and somewhere deep within the void, the hidden human stations began to open their eyes. The galaxy stood on the edge of rebirth, or ruin. And for the first time in history, every living being knew humanity had not come to destroy the galaxy. They had come to change it forever,